We're here this evening to observe yet another historic milestone. This summer, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the signing into law of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA as it's commonly known. A landmark civil rights law and a declaration of independence for some 50 million Americans with physical, sensory, psychiatric, and intellectual disabilities. And I'm going to repeat a little experiment I carried out with students earlier today and ask any of you who has a family member or a friend who has a disability to just raise your hand. And that shows, I think, when you look around this room, the stake that we as a nation have in providing basic rights for people with disability. And the other reminder, of course, we have is that all of us are only a split second away from disability ourselves, if we should happen to befall that fate. Tonight I want to share with you some of my experiences and views, both personal and professional, as a longtime advocate for disability rights. In particular, I will focus on the role played in my life by the ADA, the most important civil rights legislation since the 1960s. Let me begin with a story. As some of you may know, on July 1, 1960, just over 50 years ago, our son Peter, then an infant only 4 months old, was involved in a terrible automobile accident that took the life of his mother, my first wife. For a considerable period of time thereafter, Peter's very survival was in doubt. He had suffered multiple skull fractures and extensive brain damage that were to result in severe physical and intellectual disability. After 6 months of intensive hospital care, under the loving supervision of the Sisters of Mercy in our hometown of Pittsburgh, during which time he was actually baptized with tubes running in and out of his tiny body, Peter returned home just before Christmas, and we began life anew. I spent 3 years as a single parent to Peter and his 2 older brothers, but was then blessed to meet Ginny Judson. Some of you know her, and in fact, a few of you asked why she wasn't here tonight to give the speech. She was then a 23-year-old school teacher, and we were married 47 years ago. In 1966, Ginny and I added a 4th son to our marriage. She's been a model mom to our family and a super granny to 6 wonderful grandchildren as well. Inspired by Peter, Ginny became an effective advocate for people with disabilities at the local, state, and national level, serving ultimately as president of our local Association of Retarded Citizens and as a member of President Reagan's Committee on Mental Retardation. She is today, as you heard, the director of the Interfaith Initiative at the American Association of People with Disabilities in Washington, D.C., helping religious congregations of all faiths to identify and remove barriers to worship for persons with all types of disability.